In modern society, the problem of domestic violence is gaining increasing attention. Although traditionally women, children, and the elderly become victims, there is growing evidence that men can also suffer from family violence. This topic has long been considered almost taboo, sometimes provoking skeptical smiles. However, reality proves to be much more complex, as confirmed by high-profile cases involving well-known personalities. A notable example was the case of one celebrity couple, where the public initially accused the man, but later the court established that the woman was the aggressor in the relationship. Before I dive into this chilling story, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I cover major true crime cases and explore the psychology of criminals. Particularly notable was a 2018 case in Great Britain, which set a precedent. For the first time in the country's history, a woman was convicted of systematic domestic abuse against a man. The story began in 2012 when 16-year-old Jordan Worth and Alexander Gerald Skeel met in college. Jordan made an extraordinary impression on others, a beautiful art student who actively engaged in charity work, helped animal shelters, and raised funds for children in Africa. Her activities attracted many supporters who tried to join her charitable projects, including a marathon supporting children with special needs, which raised significant funds. In college, Jordan studied fine arts and stood out with excellent grades. She also took dance classes and was an active participant in the drama club. Her teachers later admitted they were shocked to learn about her crimes, as the girl had always given the impression of being an empathetic and sensitive person. Behind this mask of virtue hid a completely different personality. Alex came from a loving family with strong family bonds. Born prematurely with his twin brother, he grew up in an atmosphere of care and support, which left him unprepared to recognize the first signs of manipulative behavior. In an interview with BBC, Alex shared that he had been passionate about football since childhood and was captain of the school team. He dreamed of a professional career and even had trials with a professional club's youth team. His twin brother recalled that before meeting Jordan, Alex was a cheerful, sociable person who never refused to help friends. The Skeel family was well known in their town. The boy's parents were actively involved in local charity work and organized Christmas dinners for the elderly. Their relationship with Jordan developed rapidly. Romantic dates, shared photos on social media, and gift exchanges created the picture of a perfect couple. Friends and relatives recalled that Jordan often emphasized her privileged background and private school education, using this as a tool for psychological pressure on Alex. She constantly emphasized that he should be grateful for her attention. However, gradually Jordan's true character began to reveal itself. It's worth noting that Alex wasn't Jordan's first victim. Her previous partners had also experienced psychological abuse but quickly ended their relationships with her. However, these cases were not documented by law enforcement. As is often the case with aggressors, she initially masked her true nature and then began revealing it in small steps. Her worldview shifted from "we" to "I", demonstrating the extreme egocentrism characteristic of aggressive personalities. The control over Alex's life started with small things, instructions about clothing and manner of communication. Jordan methodically emphasized her indispensability in his life. Alex, perceiving this as a show of care, didn't notice the growing dependency. According to Alex's mother, the first alarming sign was the change in his eating habits. Jordan insisted that he become a vegetarian like her, although he had never shown such desire before. She also forced him to give up his favorite foods, calling them unhealthy and primitive. Later it turned out that this was the first step toward complete control over his diet. Alex's mother noticed that her son started rapidly losing weight, but Jordan explained this as body cleansing and detoxification. The next step was isolation from family and friends. Jordan openly showed hostility toward family gatherings, seeking to break all of Alex's social connections to become the sole center of his life. The control became increasingly strict. She installed tracking software on his phone, read personal messages, and created scandals over the slightest suspicion of communication with other girls. After Alex and his brother's birthday, Jordan aggressively attacked a 15-year-old friend of the twins, suspecting her of flirting with Alex. Under her pressure, Alex left college and his beloved football to earn money for her whims. Jordan forced Alex to work 2 jobs simultaneously. During the day he worked as a cleaner, and in the evening he delivered pizza. She took all the earned money for herself, giving him only a minimal amount for transportation. Meanwhile, Jordan continued her studies, aspiring to become a teacher. A disturbing signal came during her 18th birthday in 2013. During the celebration at a country hotel, Jordan suddenly disappeared for several hours, and upon returning, only laughed hysterically in response to Alex's concerns. Under pressure from family and friends, Alex finally ended the relationship, changed his phone number, and returned to his parents' home. The breakup occurred after Alex's friend accidentally noticed burn marks on his body during a football match. The friend tried to talk to Alex, but he denied everything. Then the friend approached Alex's twin brother, and together they organized a meeting with his parents. The family was shocked to learn about the real state of affairs. They immediately helped Alex pack his belongings and move home, but Jordan continued to stalk him, alternating between threats and pleas for forgiveness. However, almost a year later, Jordan stunned everyone by informing Alex's mother that she was raising his child, news that appeared without any previous signs of pregnancy. When their son was born, Jordan forbade Alex's parents from seeing their grandson for the first 6 months. She blackmailed them, threatening that they would never see the child if they didn't meet her demands. Later it was discovered that Jordan had deliberately gotten pregnant without informing Alex. She understood that motherhood would give her additional leverage. Police records documented her words that she knew he would never leave his children. During the trial, psychiatrists noted that Jordan used pregnancy in children as manipulation tools, which is typical for individuals with psychopathic tendencies. Despite previous experience, Alex decided to give the relationship a second chance when Jordan announced the pregnancy. The boy's parents, wanting to help the young family, offered her to live in their home. Initially, it seemed that Jordan had truly changed. She became more accommodating and attentive. Alex, observing these changes, opened his heart to his former girlfriend again. However, about 6 months later, her true nature returned, becoming even more aggressive. Alex's parents, though happy about their grandson and helping the couple, kept their distance from Jordan due to her unpredictable character. She reacted sharply to any of their comments or advice. Finally, she gave Alex an ultimatum, either her and the child or his parents. Alex chose her, and they moved to a separate house in the village. In the new place, Alex found a job, while Jordan took care of the home and child. However, the situation significantly worsened after the birth of their second child, a daughter in 2017. Jordan moved from psychological pressure to physical violence. The most horrific manifestation of her cruelty was repeatedly hitting Alex with a hammer on his head while he slept and attacking him with a knife. Once she even forced him to eat rat poison, which led to serious poisoning. According to doctors, when Alex was admitted to the hospital, his body was in a state of severe exhaustion. Tests showed serious deficiencies in nutrients and vitamins. Medical professionals discovered that for months he had been surviving mainly on bread and leftover baby food. Jordan deliberately prepared food with enormous amounts of salt or pepper, making it practically inedible, forcing him to eat children's leftovers. She also installed surveillance cameras in the kitchen to control his access to the refrigerator. Work was Alex's only solace, but Jordan, noticing this, forced him to quit, justifying her actions with jealousy. It is documented that Jordan systematically destroyed Alex's personal belongings that had emotional value for him. She burned his childhood photographs, football awards, and letters from friends. Particularly painful for him was the destruction of a memorable sweater given to him by his grandfather shortly before death. According to Alex, each time after destroying another memorable item, Jordan forced him to thank her for clearing life of unnecessary junk. During the house search, police found a hiding place with Alex's personal belongings that Jordan had supposedly destroyed. It turned out she kept them as trophies, including his childhood photos and the memorable sweater from his grandfather. Psychiatrists noted that such collection of trophies is characteristic of individuals with sadistic tendencies. According to neighbors who later testified in court, they often heard screams from the couple's house in the middle of the night. Jordan forced Alex to stand for hours against the wall or outside in the cold. Surveillance cameras recorded him standing in the garden for hours at 4 a.m. in winter. Financial dependence didn't worry her since she could always turn to Alex's parents for help while simultaneously sending them offensive messages in his name. Particularly cruel was her joke about Alex's grandfather's death. She informed him that he had died a week ago, causing deep emotional trauma to the man, as he was very close to his grandfather, who had spent much time with him and his twin brother in childhood. Later it turned out this was a lie. She also intercepted and destroyed Christmas and holiday cards from his family, convincing Alex that everyone had forgotten about him. When his grandmother died, Jordan deliberately concealed this information, and he missed the funeral. Physical violence escalated, from minor pushes to brutal beatings. She beat him with a hairbrush, which she later even boasted about during interrogation. Alex couldn't leave because of fear for the children and Jordan's threats to burn down his parents' house. The situation reached a critical point when she poured boiling water on him and forbade him from seeking first aid, wrapping the burns in plastic film. Due to constant beatings, he even had to remove a damaged tooth himself, as visiting a dentist was impossible due to Jordan's total financial control. Jordan also completely controlled his bank accounts and social benefits, spending all the money on herself. She forced Alex to beg for transportation money to work, often denying him even that. Police recorded at least 5 calls from neighbors within 2 months. One neighbor who called the police reported seeing Alex limping with blood on his clothes. However, each time Jordan convinced the police that everything was fine, and Alex, frightened by her threats, confirmed her words. Later it was revealed that Jordan had prepared Alex in advance with correct answers for the police, forcing him to spend hours repeating her fabricated stories about how he had injured himself. She recorded these training sessions on video, threatening to make them public if he told the truth. Neighbors also reported often hearing Jordan force Alex to repeat phrases, "I am worthless" and "I deserve punishment," for several hours. This was confirmed by audio recordings from Jordan's phone that police discovered during the investigation. The situation reached a turning point when, during another police call, Alex himself opened the door. This time, Jordan couldn't justify the obvious signs of violence. There was too much blood, and dirty socks were used instead of proper bandages. Police took Alex to the hospital, where doctors determined he was between life and death. Doctors found that Alex's body temperature was critically low, only 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. He had numerous second and third degree burns covering 5% of his body. Medical professionals calculated that without immediate help, he would have lived no more than 10 days. Alex had suffered at least 3 concussions from hammer blows that were never properly treated. Medical experts later established that during the abuse, Alex had lost almost half of his weight, dropping to a critical 44 kilograms, 97 pounds. At the hospital, nurses were shocked by Alex's condition. Besides obvious injuries, they found numerous old finger fractures that had healed incorrectly due to lack of medical attention. Over 50 scars of various origins were found on his body. Of particular concern were marks from blunt object strikes to the head. Doctors discovered several healed skull injuries. They also found numerous scars from burns, cuts, and impacts across his entire body, some of which permanently disfigured his appearance. According to forensic medical examination, Jordan systematically added small doses of sleeping pills to Alex's food to make him weaker and more susceptible to manipulation. This was confirmed by blood tests that showed traces of medications in his system. It was urgently necessary to remove part of the damaged skin to prevent necrosis and perform surgery. However, Jordan appeared at the hospital and forced Alex to sign a refusal of hospitalization, despite doctors' warnings about the lethal danger of his condition. The next day, When police arrived at their house, the couple had already disappeared. A week later, Alex independently sought help from the police, but Jordan appeared right after him, aggressively grabbed him by the neck, and demanded he return home. Although Alex, frightened by his wife's presence, tried to withdraw his statement and take the blame himself, the police insisted on his hospitalization. Psychologists who worked with Alex noted all the classic symptoms of battered person syndrome, a variety of post-traumatic stress disorder characteristic of victims of prolonged domestic abuse. Doctors confirmed that without medical help, he could have died or lost his hands through amputation. This provided grounds for bringing 17 charges against Jordan. Despite Jordan's confidence in her impunity, the court found her guilty of controlling and coercive behavior, and intentional infliction of bodily harm of varying degrees. She was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison with a lifetime restraining order from approaching Alex. Evidence presented at trial showed that Jordan had created fake social media accounts in Alex's name, through which she wrote offensive messages to his family and friends to completely destroy his social connections. She even sent threats to her own parents from these accounts to later blame Alex. During the trial, the prosecutor read Jordan's diary found during the search. In it, she detailed the methods of psychological and physical abuse she used on Alex, calling them control experiments. Particularly shocking for those present was an entry where she planned how to make him completely dependent on her by depriving him of any social contacts. The diary also contained lists of punishments for various offenses, from food deprivation to physical torture. Psychiatric evaluation revealed signs of narcissistic personality disorder and sadistic tendencies in Jordan. She meticulously planned how to make Alex's injuries as painful as possible while remaining unnoticeable to others. She carefully studied human anatomy to know which areas were most vulnerable. One entry described how she deliberately deprived him of sleep for 4 days to study the limits of human endurance. Police also discovered a collection of photographs documenting Alex's injuries that Jordan systematically recorded. Neighbors later testified that Jordan often held loud parties, inviting her friends, while Alex was forced to stand in a corner without moving for hours. If he broke her rules, she forced him to stand naked in the garden, regardless of the weather. Of particular concern was the fact that some wounds were deliberately infected. Jordan added dirt to them to slow healing. During the investigation, facts about Jordan's previous relationships emerged. 3 of her former partners came forward to police with similar stories of psychological abuse, although none had previously filed official complaints due to shame and fear. One of them spent 3 months in a psychiatric hospital after a suicide attempt caused by her abuse. Jordan's psychiatric evaluation revealed a high intelligence level, IQ 140, combined with a complete lack of empathy. Experts determined that she suffered from malignant narcissism, a rare form of narcissistic personality disorder combined with sadistic traits. During therapeutic sessions in prison, she often spoke about her experiments with pride, considering them scientific research. Experts also noted in her a rare combination of high emotional intelligence with a complete lack of empathy, which allowed her to masterfully manipulate not only victims but also authorities and social services representatives. The investigation also revealed that Jordan maintained a secret blog under a pseudonym, where she detailed her methods of psychological control, disguising them as relationship advice. The blog had over 50,000 followers, many of whom considered her advice revolutionary in relationship building. After exposure, the blog was deleted, but its archived copies are used by police to train officers in recognizing signs of psychological abuse. This case became a precedent for Great Britain, the first time a woman was convicted of domestic violence against a man. During imprisonment, Jordan underwent psychological therapy and an anger management program. However, experts expressed concern about her early release, noting that such deep behavioral patterns rarely undergo complete correction. Alex underwent long-term psychological rehabilitation and attended support groups for violence victims. When asked why he didn't stop the abuse earlier, he explained that initially he didn't recognize the psychological pressure, believing in genuine love, and gradually normal conflicts evolved into systematic violence. Jordan's psychological manipulation made him unable to seek help. Today, Alex lives with his family, raises his children, and actively works to break stereotypes about domestic violence, emphasizing that not only women can become victims. Despite the complexity of this mission, he continues his work, gradually changing society's perception of the problem. An unexpected turn came in 2023 when Jordan, who had managed to start a new relationship, announced her engagement to Adam Steff. Despite warnings from friends and family, who even sent him a documentary about Alex's story, Adam dismissed all warnings, considering the accusations against Jordan to be slander. In July 2023, the parole board decided on her early release, believing she no longer posed a threat to society. In 2019, BBC released a documentary, Abused by My Girlfriend, based on Alex's story. The film received wide resonance and several television awards. After its broadcast, the number of calls to organizations helping male victims of domestic violence tripled. British police made changes to domestic violence response protocols, adding special instructions for working with male victims. Alex himself established a charitable foundation supporting men who have suffered from domestic violence, and regularly gives lectures at universities and conferences dedicated to this issue. For his work in combating domestic violence, Alex received several prestigious awards, including the Order of the British Empire, OBE, in 2023 for services in fighting domestic violence and supporting its victims. His story continues to inspire other men to find the strength to break the cycle of violence and seek help. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think about this case. If you enjoy deep dives into true crime, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, friends.